The Terran exploration ship Vanguard drifted silently through the dark expanse of Sector 88B, its lights casting faint glows on the dense asteroid fields nearby. For the crew, it was just another routine scan, mapping distant planetary systems for the Terran Federation's records. But when the transmission came through, the routine vanished. Captain Lainey Reyes sat up sharply in her seat on the bridge, her attention fully captured by the pulsing signal cutting through the ship's static. It was faint, distorted, as though the signal had bounced through 1,000 interstellar anomalies. She glanced at her communications officer, Ensign Tara Lowe, who was staring at the monitor, wide-eyed and confused. "Captain, you're going to want to hear this," Lowe said, her voice barely a whisper. "I think it's Old Earth Standard mixed with another language. But it's strange, some words don't even sound human." Reyes moved quickly, her fingers tapping commands as she adjusted the ship's receiver to isolate the transmission. The familiar hum of static faded, replaced by broken fragments of an archaic voice repeating a phrase that sent chills down her spine. "Help! Lost! Abyss!" An unsettling silence filled the bridge. Reyes recognized the cadence of the message as an ancient distress signal, one rarely used but drilled into every Terran cadet's memory. This was the code of a colonial expedition, a last, desperate call for aid. Could it be from Edrin IV? Lieutenant Mero Desai, her second-in-command, asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Edrin IV was a ghost story in the Terran Federation, an ill-fated colony ship sent into uncharted space over a century ago. Communications with the ship had ceased within days of its departure from the core systems, and the colonists, several hundred men, women, and children, were presumed lost forever, their fates the stuff of tragic legend. No one had ever found the remnants of that voyage, and theories of its disappearance ranged from black holes to alien abduction. "It's possible," Ray said, a spark of excitement mingling with unease. "Plot a course toward the signal source, Lieutenant. We're going to find out." As Vanguard shifted course, the crew murmured with curiosity and nervous anticipation. Throughout the ship, rumors began to spread. Could there truly be survivors after all this time, or was this just another cosmic echo, a ghost message from the depths of space? Hours later, they approached Edrin IV, its dull, rust-colored surface shrouded in a swirling atmosphere of dust and gas. The planet was bathed in an eerie red glow from its sun, casting long shadows across its barren plains. Scanners showed no signs of life on the surface, yet the signal grew stronger, relentless, and rhythmic, as though it had been broadcasting for centuries, waiting for someone to hear. Reyes took a deep breath. "Prepare for descent. We're going down." As the Vanguard's landing thrusters engaged, cutting through the thin atmosphere, Reyes felt a tension settle over the crew. It was as if the planet itself was aware of their arrival, the signal drawing them in like a beacon to the unknown. Vanguard touched down on the barren plains of Edrin IV, a world cloaked in an endless rust-colored horizon. The dust storms whipped around the ship, limiting visibility and giving the landscape an almost otherworldly feel. Captain Reyes watched the surroundings carefully from the bridge as the dust settled, casting a faint red glow over the ground. The signal, louder now, pulsed from somewhere far below, deep within the planet itself. "Scans indicate an entrance approximately 2 kilometers east," reported Lieutenant Desai. "It looks like an opening into a cavern system." "Strange place for a distress signal to originate," Reyes murmured. "Prepare the exploration team. I want eyes on whatever is down there." Within minutes, Reyes led a small team out of the ship, their steps muffled by the soft dust coating the planet's surface. They moved cautiously across the rocky terrain, following the signal's pull toward the cavern entrance. Reyes glanced at her crew, reading the apprehension on each of their faces as they approached a vast, dark chasm opening up before them. The gap yawned like the mouth of some ancient creature, waiting for them to enter. One by one, they descended into the cavern, their suit lights illuminating jagged rock formations and glittering mineral veins embedded in the walls. The further they went, the more surreal the environment became, with veins of bioluminescent minerals casting eerie, pulsating glows in shades of green and blue. The ground felt warm underfoot, and the air, though thin, was breathable, suggesting an ecosystem adapted to these subterranean depths. As they ventured deeper, Rey's suit picked up faint readings of life, human life. She halted, gesturing for silence. Her comm crackled, and Ensign Lowe's voice came through, barely audible. "Captain, multiple life signatures ahead, humanoid." Reyes took a steadying breath. "Proceed carefully. We don't know if they're friendly." Moving slowly, they followed the bioluminescent trail until they reached a massive underground city, sprawled across the walls and floors of a cavern that seemed to stretch endlessly. Towering structures made of dark stone rose around them, their surfaces embedded with the glowing minerals that gave light to the city. Figures moved in the distance, pale-skinned, their features sharp and their eyes gleaming in the dim light. Before Reyes could process the sight, several figures approached. They wore dark robes, adorned with metal that looked hand-forged, and carried staffs that glowed faintly. The tallest among them, a man with piercing eyes, stopped before them, studying Reyes and her crew in silence. "I am High Speaker Dara," he said, his voice echoing softly through the cavern. "You stand in the heart of the Abyssal Order." Reyes straightened, choosing her words carefully. "We're from the Terran Federation. We received your signal. Are you descendants of the original colony?" Dara nodded slowly, his gaze inscrutable. "Yes, we are. But know that this place, this world, demands a heavy price. Outsiders rarely understand." As Reyes' team exchanged uneasy glances, she caught a glimpse of strange machinery woven into the walls of the cavern, remnants of ancient Terran technology. It was clear that these people had adapted, surviving in ways she could hardly imagine. But what price exactly had they paid? And what secrets still lay buried within this abyss? "We don't seek harm," Reyes said, her voice firm. "We only wish to understand." Dara's expression darkened, his eyes narrowing. "Very well, but understand this. Here in the abyss, curiosity is a dangerous thing. There are things below that even we do not disturb." The Lieutenant Desai had been patrolling the perimeter of the Abyssal Order's main cavern, mapping the maze-like pathways with his handheld scanner. One moment his signal was steady, the next it vanished entirely. Ensign Lowe tried reaching him over the comms, but there was only static. Captain Reyes and her team searched, combing through the twisted tunnels and shadowed alcoves, but there was no sign of Desai, not even a footprint in the dust. Tension rippled through the crew, casting a heavy silence over them. Reyes doubled security, placing guards at every access point. But an eerie feeling crept into the minds of every Terran stationed in the cavern, a sense that they were being watched, hunted by something unseen. Over the next few days, the unease intensified. Crew members reported hearing whispers echoing through the tunnels, soft and indistinct, just beyond the range of comprehension. The Abyssals moved through the caverns with practiced calm, showing no sign of fear. When Reyes questioned one of the Abyssal guides, the young woman only murmured, "They are the echoes, memories of the first descent." "What do you mean?" Reyes pressed. The guide shook her head, avoiding Reyes' gaze. "The first descent left scars, and some spirits never found rest." The explanation did little to ease the crew's nerves. Reyes suspected there was more to these echoes than the Abyssals let on, but the Order's leaders had remained cryptic and tight-lipped about their history and the rules governing life in the abyss. Then the sightings began. In the dimly lit caverns, crew members caught glimpses of figures moving just beyond the glow of their lights. These shapes were human-like but blurred, distorted, their forms twisting in ways that defied logic. They appeared as shadows with strange, flickering eyes that seemed to watch the Terrans with unsettling intensity. Reyes received dozens of reports describing similar sightings, each one more unsettling than the last. Desperate for answers, Reyes confronted High Speaker Dara. "We've lost a crew member," she said, "and we're seeing things. Figures in the dark. Is this what you call the echoes?" Dara's expression grew somber. "They are remnants," he said, voice low. "What you see are not living beings, but imprints left by those who came before us, those who perished in the abyss. They were claimed by the darkness, their minds twisted. The echoes wander still, drawn to new arrivals. They do not take kindly to outsiders." Reyes felt a chill, realizing the magnitude of what her team faced. And what about the man we lost? Could he be? Dara's gaze hardened. If he is lost to the abyss, he has joined the echoes. No one taken by the darkness has ever returned. Unwilling to give up hope, Reyes organized a search party to scour the deepest tunnels. Armed with light beacons and improvised tracking devices, her team descended further into the network of caverns, their footsteps echoing eerily as they went deeper than they had before. As they moved, strange markings began appearing on the walls, symbols, rough carvings of twisted faces, and clawed figures. Reyes realized these carvings were centuries old, possibly made by the original colonists during their descent. They grew more elaborate, more frantic, the deeper they went, as if each carving had been a desperate attempt to warn others. When Reyes and her team stopped to examine a particularly disturbing set of symbols, a sound rippled through the darkness, a low, guttural growl that resonated through the cavern walls. Shadows shifted around them, coalescing into shapes that moved against the light. A figure, familiar yet twisted, stepped forward from the shadows. It was Desai, or what remained of him, his face frozen in an expression of terror, his eyes hollow and empty. The figure reached toward them, his distorted voice a faint whisper. "Don't go deeper." And then he vanished, leaving Reyes and her team trembling in the dark, haunted by the words echoing in their minds. After the encounter with what had once been Lieutenant Desai, Captain Reyes ordered the crew to retreat to the main chamber of the abyssal city. The atmosphere was tense, with nervous glances exchanged among the team. In the flickering light of bioluminescent minerals, the cavern felt more like a tomb than a sanctuary. They could no longer ignore the truth. The abyss held horrors beyond their understanding. Determined to get answers, Reyes approached High Speaker Dara, who awaited her at the heart of the city's ancient council chamber. His expression was calm, but his eyes held a shadow of regret, as if he long anticipated this confrontation. "High Speaker," Reyes began, her tone steely, "we need the full story of what happened to the first colonists. We've seen things, echoes of people who were once alive. Our scans show faint traces of Terran technology embedded within these walls. And you warned us about a price for survival. What exactly did the first colonists do to endure here?" Dara held her gaze, his face taut with the weight of secrets he could no longer conceal. "If you wish to know," he said, "then come with me." Reyes followed him through the city, deeper into the maze of tunnels, until they reached a forgotten chamber, sealed with reinforced doors etched with ancient symbols. Dara placed his hand against a scanner, and the doors groaned as they opened, revealing a chamber filled with relics from the original colony, a mishmash of old Terran tech and crude mechanical contraptions that looked haphazardly modified over generations. Dara gestured to the walls, where faded holograms flickered to life, displaying fragments of video logs left by the first colonists. Reyes watched, captivated, as ghostly images appeared, men and women in worn uniforms, faces strained, recording desperate messages as they described their descent into the caverns. Supplies had run out faster than expected, and the surface had proven uninhabitable due to intense radiation storms. Forced underground, they had no choice but to use experimental technology to modify their DNA, allowing them to adapt to the darkness, the thin air, and the peculiar bioluminescent life. But that adaptation had a price. They called it the shattering, Dara explained, his voice almost a whisper. The genetic modifications enhanced our senses, but they also linked us to the abyss. Those who failed to withstand the mental strain of this world became echoes, remnants wandering the dark. The modifications twisted their minds, binding their consciousnesses to this place. They are neither dead nor truly alive. That is the curse of our people. Reyes absorbed his words, the weight of the revelation pressing down on her. So the echoes, they're your ancestors, bound here forever. Dara nodded solemnly. And every generation, we risk creating more. If any of us weakens under the strain of the abyss, we become one with it. That is why we shun outsiders. Every disruption to the abyss's energy threatens the balance, potentially waking the ancient forces that lie deeper still. As if on cue, a rumble shook the chamber, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Dara's eyes widened, and Rey saw fear break through his calm exterior. "It's too late," he murmured. "The recent disturbances have already reached the heart of the abyss. We have awakened something that has slumbered for centuries." Rey's mind raced. What exactly did we awaken? "The Wraiths," Dara said, his voice trembling. "Colossal creatures older than any memory, guardians of the deepest parts of Edrin 4. They kept to their depths for generations, but they do not forgive disruptions to their realm. They are drawn to the energy we have harnessed, and to you." The ground trembled again, stronger this time, and Reyes felt a strange, almost magnetic pull drawing her attention to the tunnels leading down to the core. Her crew was at risk, and there was no choice left but to act. "We'll have to go deeper," Reyes said, meeting Dara's gaze with grim determination. "Show us the way to the core. We need to find a way to stabilize the energy and put these wraiths back to rest, or none of us will survive this abyss." Dara hesitated, then nodded, resignation in his eyes. "Follow me, but know this. There is no guarantee that even together we can quell the wrath of the wraiths." With each step, Reyes felt the air grow denser, thick with the weight of ancient secrets. The shattered veil had been lifted, and she knew that from here, there was no turning back. As Captain Reyes and High Speaker Dara led the group deeper into the heart of the abyss, a sense of impending doom settled over them. The air grew hotter, almost suffocating, as faint tremors pulsed through the ground beneath their feet. Strange bioluminescent fungi lined the walls, casting an eerie green light on the twisting path ahead. Each rumble was louder than the last, and Reyes knew that whatever lay below was awakening with a force that could destroy them all. "The wraiths have sensed us," Dara whispered, his voice taut with dread. "They are creatures of the core, bound to the ancient energies we dared to harness." The path narrowed, leading into a massive chamber, and Reyes stopped, awestruck. Before her was a sprawling ancient machine, half buried in the rock. It pulsed with a faint blue glow, an intricate web of wires and conduits running deep into the stone around it. Reyes recognized fragments of Terran technology, but much of it was far older, its origins unknown. "What is this?" she asked, eyes fixed on the strange apparatus. Dara hesitated. "This is the Nexus, a device built by the first colonists using remnants they discovered here. It draws power from the planet's core, channeling the geothermal energy to sustain our people. But it was never meant to be used as we have used it. The first colonists thought they could control it, but in time, the Nexus became more than a tool. It became a prison for the wraiths, binding them to the core." Reyes' pulse quickened, and now it's failing. Before Dara could answer, a low growl reverberated through the chamber, followed by a blast of hot air that made Reyes stagger. She raised her flashlight and saw a shadow moving in the darkness, massive, serpentine, with scales that gleamed like molten metal. The wraith emerged, a creature of monstrous proportions, its eyes glowing like embers. It moved with an unnatural fluidity, its body half submerged in the rock, as if it were part of the planet itself. "Back!" Reyes shouted, signaling her team to retreat, but the wraith advanced, unfazed. Its jaws opened, revealing rows of teeth sharp as blades. Dara shouted something in a language Reyes couldn't understand, a ritualistic chant that seemed to give the creature pause. "It's listening to you," Reyes realized, watching the wraith's movement slow. Dara's face was etched with strain. The chant binds them, but only for a moment. It won't last. Thinking quickly, Reyes turned to her team. "We need to reactivate the Nexus. If we can stabilize its power output, we might calm the wraiths and contain them again." They sprinted toward the Nexus, dodging chunks of rock as the wraith's tail thrashed against the walls. Reyes could feel the heat rising, waves of energy pulsing from the core, making the air hum with tension. Ensign Lowe and Engineer Falk worked frantically, pulling wires and adjusting dials as the ancient machine sputtered and groaned. "Captain, the Nexus is badly damaged," Lowe said, her hands trembling as she struggled to reconnect a severed power conduit. "There's a risk it could overload." Reyes glanced at the wraith, now watching them with burning eyes, its massive body coiling around the Nexus. "If we don't try, we're all dead." "Do it." Lowe took a deep breath, then twisted a rusted lever. The Nexus whirred to life, the blue glow intensifying as the power surged through its circuits. The chamber filled with a deep hum, and the wraith reared back, its eyes narrowing as the machine's energy forced it to recoil. For a moment, hope flickered. The wraith stilled, its form wavering as the energy pulsed from the Nexus, a containment field forming around it. But the machine sputtered again, the old components straining under the pressure. "The field's unstable," Falk shouted, his voice panicked. "We need more power, or it won't hold." Desperate, Reyes made a split-second decision. "Redirect energy from our ship's core to the Nexus. It might give it the boost it needs." Lowe hesitated but nodded, patching into Vanguard systems remotely and siphoning energy into the Nexus. The machine surged, its glow reaching a blinding intensity. The containment field solidified, trapping the wraith in an energy bubble that seemed to sap its strength, forcing it back into the rock. The wraith writhed, letting out a roar that shook the cavern. But as the Nexus drew the last of Vanguard's power reserves, the creature stilled, its form dissolving into shadows that sank into the stone, merging back into the depths of the abyss. The ground quieted, and the tension in the air faded. Reyes and her team exhaled, exhaustion hitting them like a wave. Dara looked at Reyes, his expression a mixture of gratitude and awe. "You've saved us, and reminded us of the price we paid to survive here." Reyes nodded, feeling the weight of their shared ordeal. They had calmed the wrath of the abyss, but the memory of the wraiths would haunt them forever. With the wraiths subdued and the Nexus finally stabilized, silence filled the vast chamber beneath Edrin 4. Captain Reyes and her crew stared at the dormant machine, its pulsing glow dimmed but steady. The wraith's energies had receded back into the depths, contained for now. But the toll of their victory was evident. Vanguard's power reserves were nearly depleted, and Reyes knew their time on this planet was limited. High Speaker Dara turned to Reyes, his expression solemn. "We owe you a great debt. Without your intervention, the wraiths would have consumed us all." Reyes nodded, weariness tugging at her every movement. "The Nexus is stabilized, but it's only a temporary solution. If the energy levels fluctuate again, the wraiths will return." She paused, studying the ancient machinery around her. "You need a more sustainable way to coexist with this place, or you'll face the same fate as the Echoes." Dara's gaze shifted to his people, who had gathered quietly at the chamber's edge, their faces a mixture of hope and lingering fear. "You speak the truth," he admitted. "Our ancestors sought to conquer the abyss, to bend it to their will. But we see now that this place is alive, its spirit too powerful to be controlled." Reyes glanced around, her mind racing. She had seen remnants of Terran technology scattered throughout the caverns, machines and tools that could still hold the key to survival. "Your ancestors built the Nexus, but with the Federation's knowledge, we can help you repair it properly. We can upgrade it, set safeguards, and create a balanced system. This abyss doesn't have to be your enemy. Dara considered her words carefully. You would leave this technology with us to rebuild what has been broken. Reyes nodded. We came here answering your distress call. And while we've all endured losses, I believe we were meant to be here. We'll provide you with what resources we have left, diagrams, data archives, tools. But in return, we ask that you honor this world, respect its balance. Treat the abyss not as a prison, but as a partner. Dara's gaze softened, a rare glimpse of gratitude in his eyes. This will be our covenant. We will walk with the abyss, not against it, and our descendants will remember this promise. As her crew gathered the last of their equipment, Reyes prepared to depart. The Abyssal Order members began to chant, a low, reverent melody that filled the cavern, echoing against the stone. The sound was haunting, yet beautiful, a prayer of harmony with the ancient forces around them. Reyes felt a strange peace settle over her, a sense that despite the horrors they'd witnessed, they had helped forge something meaningful here. Turning to Dara, she extended her hand, a simple gesture bridging worlds. Farewell, High Speaker, and may this covenant hold. Dara clasped her hand firmly. Go in peace, Captain Reyes, and know that our people will remember your names, as we remember the stars. The crew filed back to Vanguard, subdued but relieved. The return to the surface was filled with quiet reflection, each crew member pondering the strange and uncharted depths they were leaving behind. As they emerged from the caverns into the dust-covered plains, the orange sky stretched before them, vast and unmarred. Inside Vanguard, Reyes took one last look at the surface of Edron 4 from the ship's viewport. The desolate landscape hid secrets, and she knew that the planet's heart still pulsed with the energy of the abyss. But now, the Abyssal Order had a new understanding of it, one that might allow them to survive without sacrificing more lives to the darkness. Vanguard lifted off, engines straining on minimal reserves as they escaped Adrian 4's gravity. Reyes allowed herself a rare smile as they broke through the atmosphere. They had emerged from the abyss not just alive, but having made a difference. As the ship entered orbit, Reyes gathered her crew in the command deck, addressing them with a quiet pride. Today, we did more than survive. We honored the past and laid the foundation for the future of a lost colony. We showed what it means to be human. The crew cheered softly, a weary but triumphant sound. Vanguard turned toward the distant stars, its course set for home. Behind them, Edron 4 and its mysteries faded into the dark, but they carried with them the echoes of a covenant, a promise to respect the abyss and a legacy that would live on through those they'd left behind.